Welcome, everyone, to the CSM Mastermind. I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker and the Success Coaching Training Program. We are back. I am back after being gone for the last session. Thank you, Angelica, for taking care of the program. But we are back for our monthly live webcast today, talking about time management. Now, this free learning event is brought to you by Success Coaching, the global leader in customer success professional development training, now with more than 25,000 students from more than 90 countries on our skills development platform. Our programs are available in various formats, from self-paced online learning to virtual instructor-led boot camps. We've got a bunch of upcoming boot camps and workshops, including the fall session of our 12-week Level 1 and Level 2 coaching program that I teach and deliver in partnership with the University of San Francisco Executive Education Certificate Program. Take advantage of the early registration discount, which ends July 31st. Whether it's self-paced learning, a boot camp workshop, or a more gradual weekly coaching program, we've got quality customer success focused programs and formats that will suit the needs of anyone and everyone on your staff if they are in a customer-facing role. So if you or your team members are looking to upgrade their customer-facing skills, we've got a program for that. Ashley has dropped a link to our program page and any coupons that we're offering right now into chat. Classes are starting soon, and we've got open seats remaining. You can find out more about all of our online learning and instructor-led programs and workshops at successcoaching.co. Now, the CSM Mastermind series is a live and unscripted discussion where we dig into a single topic relevant to customer success. Regardless of the company that you work for, the scope of your role, or the size of the customers that you deal with, we aim to pick topics that are going to be practical and useful to you. And I can't think of more practical or more useful of a topic than today's topic, time management. The schedule for our upcoming events can also be found at successcoaching.co. Our next mastermind session will be on August 16th, when we'll be talking about how to get promoted in a CSM role. So go to successcoaching.co, click on the events tab at the top of the page to find out more and register. Now, a few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is recorded, and we will be posting a replay along with a transcription on our website early next week. We also will be taking questions later on during the webinar, so please don't be shy and use that Q&A button found at the bottom of your screen to either ask or upvote a question. We answer questions based on the most upvote. So if you see a question that's close to one that you want to ask, you're going to be better off upvoting it. We're also broadcasting on LinkedIn Live, and we've got Tracy monitoring that feed. So if you have a question and you are watching on LinkedIn Live, post it, and Tracy will relay it to us. Also, we love getting feedback during the event, but we ask that you keep all that commentary, all that feedback to the chat window, right? So feedback to the chat window, questions to the Q&A. Now, there's a lot of thought leadership out there, along with a lot of theories about how to deliver customer success. In this series, we focus on practical, real-world advice, best practices, techniques, and shared experiences from those that are practicing customer success on a daily basis. Now, to do that, we invite 3 panelists to join me for a roundtable discussion. These are people who are great at their craft, and we ask them to share their experiences and their perspectives. So without further ado, I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves to y'all, talk a bit about who they are and what they do. And let's get started, as usual, in alphabetical order with Cole.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. So as you said, my name is Cole Jacquard. I'm the head of customer success for Real Data AI. We're located in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. I've been with the team for 3 years and formally been involved in customer success for the last 3 years. Real Data as a company, we are a tech startup that works in the field of land-based fish aquaculture globally around the world, working to grow and optimize land-based aquaculture globally. A little bit about myself. My background is actually in biology, and that's how I got started with Real Data as an intern biologist. From there, I worked as a field engineer installing our products around the world. And during that time, slowly getting to get to know our clients and eventually managing them, and now managing all of our clients within the company. So that's me.
I love the story, man. I love hearing how people come from, roles from industries that you wouldn't expect them to be, you wouldn't expect them to move into customer success, from marine biologist to customer success. I love that. That's awesome. And as we were talking about before we got started, I want to have a conversation, record a conversation with you just about that at some point in the future. So thanks, Cole. Thanks for spending your time with us today. Jennifer, you're up.
Thank you. My name is Jen Nasto. I'm a customer success manager at Xywave, which is one of the largest insurtech companies in the country. Part of what we do is we help insurance agencies grow through our cloud technology. Everything from agency management systems to quoting software to email marketing. So as far as the background on me, I kind of have a unique story. Before I transitioned into customer success about a year ago, my background is as of an insurance agent for like the past 8-9 years. And so that's what I was doing before stumbling into the world of customer success. And it's kind of an interesting story. I was minding my own business on TikTok one evening, and a content creator, Diana De Jesus, which she's been in customer success. Many of you probably have heard of her.
Yeah, we know Diana very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She came on and she was talking about opportunities for women in tech, and how you can take your current skills and transition into customer success. And I just kind of fell in love with it and became a sponge, absorbing everything that I could about all things CS. Ended up signing up for Success Coaching Boot Camp even before I started interviewing. And in less than 30 days, landed a CS role at pretty much, like I said, the largest insurtech company in the space. So very excited about this industry. I feel like I'm in the right vein of what I need to be doing career-wise. And so for anybody out there that, is transitioning or recently transitioned, there's so much growth to be had with this industry. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, once again, I love the story. I want to have a conversation with you, a more in-depth conversation with you on your path. I love adding those to our webcast series. I think it's always enlightening. And I talk to people all the time that are like, how do I get in? Well, hey, what's your subject matter expertise? What's your passion? Right? Let's leverage that to get your foot in the door. I did that repeatedly when we were doing recruiting. People would come to me and say, how do I transition from this to that? So awesome. Thank you for joining us. And last but certainly not least, somebody I've known for many years.
Yeah.
As well as one of our own guest instructors, Patrick.
Well, thank you, Andrew, Cole, and Jennifer. It's great to see everyone and hear the stories of your career. So for the last 25 years, I've been in various customer-facing roles all throughout the entire customer journey, from startups to Fortune 500 companies. Just a quick breakdown. It's 10 years at Deloitte as a management consultant, mostly doing enterprise implementations, and then 15 years after that, working in customer success, professional service roles, from startups to Fortune 500 organizations. And currently, I am the founder and consultant at Inroad. And what we do is coach managers on project management, change management, organizational transformation, doing a lot of oversight on project remediation projects, so project turnarounds, or prevention of a project going south, and but also working with professional service organizations or implementation teams on delivery and how to do that effectively. Currently, I'm also adjunct lecturer at San Francisco State University, teaching management information systems to their master's programs, their MBA, master's in analytics, accountancy. And as Andrew said, I'm very proud to be a success coach here at Success Coaching, teaching the Manager Essentials course.
Which I believe we're relaunching that course in September. New format, same great content. So we'll have more details on that during the CSM Mastermind next month. But anybody who is in management or aspires to be in management, this is a great foundational course that you're going to be hard pressed to find. It definitely within your company. I mean, only the biggest of big companies actually offer something like that. So that's why we decided to partner up with Patrick and offer something like that. So thanks, Patrick. Thanks for joining the program. Once again, we all appreciate your time today. Now let's get to the topic at hand. As CSMs, you have a lot on your plates, and I know that's probably an understatement. Communicating with customers, onboarding new clients, attending team meetings, generating reports, and much, much more. It can easily become overwhelming, but fear not, because that's why we're here today. We'll explore some strategies and techniques to help you effectively manage your time, reduce your stress, and boost your productivity. And this not only benefits all of us professionally, but it also enhances customer satisfaction and results. Now, implementing these strategies may require some effort and some time and some organization, but the long-term benefits of mastering time management far outweigh the cost. You are in control of your own calendar. Remember that. So to get things kicked off, what is one time management challenge that what is one time management challenge that any of my guests have personally experienced in your role as a customer-facing professional, and how did you overcome it?
Sure. So I could take this one to start. So as I said, I'm in a startup, and I was there during the early stage. I think I was the 8th employee. And for people that are in startups, you know that you need to wear many hats. And with that comes the requirement to be good at time management. If not, you're not going to be successful in your tasks. So in the early stages, when I transitioned from an intern biologist to a field engineer, obviously we're in the field doing installations at the client's facilities. So customer success is also a massive component of this. Yes, we need to do installations, but also we need to make sure the clients are happy. They understand the processes, they're properly onboarded in the functionalities and next steps and stuff. So it's obviously a big thing. So not only working on doing installations, but also thinking about the variables that come with customer success. So to do that, it was very stressful, very challenging, trying to organize my days. So some of the things that I implemented to do that, to try to resolve some of the challenges that are involved in not only managing multiple facets of the job I'm doing, but also implementing, is planning my day ahead. If you can plan ahead, it's so important. When I was there, I would have a list of what I was going to accomplish that day. Are you going to accomplish everything every time? No, because a plan never goes perfectly. But at least having an idea of what you need to accomplish each day, each week, or for the entirety of the trip, it makes that process so much easier. Yeah, there's going to be wrenches thrown in here and there, but at least you have a starting point. Some of the other things are bin out focus time. If there are components where we need to talk to the customers or other things where we need to work on tasks, try to organize those things so you know you have the allotted time to work on them. Some of the other things too is understanding what is valuable to accomplish. So you can have a list of things to do, but what are the true things of value that I need to accomplish today to say that I've had a successful day and a successful trip as a whole? So understand a list of what is valuable and what is maybe a little bit less valuable that can be worked on a little bit later. And just overall, I guess, a roadmap, which kind of encompasses everything I said. Having an idea of what all your goals are going into things, so you're not working on the fly. Those are kind of the big things that I worked on to make sure that the trips that I was going on were accomplished. Clients feel happy, cared for, taken care of, and we're accomplishing what we need to.
It is, so the important versus urgent, basically the Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah.
Super important. I love that you use the term many hats. Would think so. With being employee number 8, you're the freaking hat rack. You're not just wearing hats. You're wearing, right? You're a walking hat rack.
So, yes.
Yeah, totally. Jennifer, Jen. I know you prefer Jen. Jen, what do you got to add to that? Tell us about your experience in time management.
So, in the insurance world, just being on the agency side and now being on the tech side and in the CS space, agents expect everything to be, solved within 24 to 48 hours because that's, how they run their business with their customers, with auto and home quotes, commercial quotes, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really fast-paced business as it is. And so it's interesting now that I'm on the tech side and I have a book of business with agency owners, and it's like, wow, everybody wants everything done. It's like, was I like that as an agent? And I'm like, yeah, I was, so it's really prioritizing, what is the business impact first and foremost, really knowing and understanding your agencies and your book of business. And really what I've found, just putting my insurance agent hat back on because I was in their shoes and in their seats, communication goes a long way. So if something's going to take a little bit longer, making sure that you're not ignoring that email or putting it off and either picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm working on this. I just need X amount of time, right? I think for me too, it was learning how long things take internally, right? Because we're working cross-departmentally, cross-functionally a lot. And, if something involves multiple departments or other teams, setting realistic expectations upfront with the customer goes a long way. And so that's kind of been my approach to the time management piece, along with a lot of the other things that Cole had said. But just top of mind, that was some of the immediate challenges that I faced in my role diving into my book of business. But, as long as you're honest and upfront with your customers and keeping communication, that's going to lessen any type of friction that would arise. And most people, tend to be reasonable about it. It goes back to also building that trust with your customers too. So.
Yeah, Patrick, I know you want to jump in here.
Sure. The one that I have seen really throughout my career working on with large enterprise implementations, and I'll break it down to what I've seen with teams and customer facing roles, but also individually, personally, how I've had challenges is overestimating the amount of work that can be done in a period of time.
Yeah.
And, really sometimes on big projects, working with customers on big initiatives of, wow, this is a big body of work and it seems very overwhelming. And a lot of times we overestimate. And so really breaking that into smaller components, much more manageable tasks, and really continuing to refine it to where we really got a clear definition as to how long this particular activity is going to take. And then turning that into, yes, a project plan, but not leaving it to big, large amounts of work that could take, 2 weeks. Well, what's going to be done in 2 weeks, and really breaking that down personally. And I know that for me, it's been like PowerPoint presentations where you're like, oh, well, this will only take me 2 hours to knock out. And then all of a sudden I'm like, the sun's setting. I didn't go do my workout. I've missed, family events or whatever. It's like, oh, well, really, I should have estimated double that. It's going to take me 4 hours. And same thing with like a statement of work. Oh, I'll bang this out in an hour. It's going to take, 2-3 hours. And so same thing, breaking it into smaller components and going, look, this part is going to take me this long. This section is going to take me this long, and really breaking it down. So I have a real clear definition of what that overall work is going to take. And then turning that personally, what I do is time boxing. That's something we'll probably talk about throughout today is time boxing and putting that on your calendar into scheduled events. So it's not just some big to-do list that seems overwhelming, just like I was talking about what project teams go through.
Yeah, so the 1-3-5 framework is a framework that we espouse when we're talking about problem solving, decision making, problem decomposition. But it's also a great way to take something that's complicated. We also talk about it in execution, in our execution content around executing against success plans. How do we get to this objective? Well, let's break it down. And what's nice about breaking it down is, if you break it down from one large objective to three smaller objectives, those three smaller objectives can also act as leading indicators. Hey, I'm moving closer to achieving my overall objective. So besides that, I like that problem decomposition. Also, by the way, the overestimation, it was something I used to coach my teams on all the time. Like, do not tell the customer what you think they want to hear. Tell them the reality of it and pad it, right? Let's pad it a little bit so that at the end of the day, if we really think something's going to take 4 days to do, and we tell the customer it's going to take 5 days to do, if we get it done in 4 days, we've met and exceeded customer expectations. And if it takes 5 days because something slipped, we've still met their expectations.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is in project planning is, I'll call it contingency. I get warm fuzzies when I walk into a project and I start looking at the project plan, whatever tool you use, whether it's Microsoft Project or Monday or whatever, Asana, of seeing actual tasks that are labeled as contingency for especially those big items, whether it be like data conversion or interface integration, and breaking it down and actually planning that contingency into your actual plan. Because if you don't have that, you're either on plan or you're behind plan. Right. You're never ahead of plan. So meaning that everything has to go right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
nothing ever goes 100% right.
No, it doesn't. And so therefore, that's why most projects are always behind schedule. They're not on plan because the plan has no contingency. Therefore, everything has to go to plan.
Right.
So, and that's, go ahead.
So Jen, any specific techniques or tools that you use to manage your time that have been effective?
Yes. So our company just recently last year brought on Gainsight. So that's how we track our tasks and, call to actions, our success plans, EBRs, everything. So everything goes into Gainsight. And that's been super helpful. But prior to Gainsight, I was utilizing like Outlook tasks. It is a long to-do list, but hey, it got the job done at the time. So I still will use a combination of my time blocking on my calendar, I think is really important.
Time blocking,
we'll talk a lot about that today, I'm sure. And the tasks in Gainsight, being able to prioritize, typically how I do things is, if I've got an influx of emails, for example, right, and I can't get to something within, 2 to 5 minutes, it's going to be going into Gainsight as a task, and it's going to be prioritized immediately like that. So I'm constantly in and out of, basically my Outlook and my Gainsight, just to kind of prioritize my day. But I do, once we brought on Gainsight, I think it's been super helpful just in being able to have playbooks, for example. So if I've got an EBR coming up, I can assign a playbook, and the list of tasks of everything that we need to do pops up automatically. So it's been kind of automated, which has been great. And those things, kind of pop up as the dates come along ahead of time to prepare for the EBRs. So things like that. I know there was a question in there, I think, about specific tools. So I would say Outlook and Gainsight are my two biggest time management tools that I use for my book of business.
Cole, what about you? Well, what is your kind of go-to approach for managing your time?
Yeah, I think going off the calendar thing's a big thing too, is just having some time marked off. My favorite thing on Google Calendars, which is what we use, is the focus time, and dropping that. And I don't really always utilize the Pomodoro technique. Sometimes I put a little bit more time, a few less breaks, which is probably just follow the Pomodoro technique. But focusing your time, one of the other things is just avoiding wasted time tasks. So if there's something that I'm in a call, for example, do I really need to be in this call? Is there somebody else that can manage what's going on in this and I don't have to be here? things like that, making sure everything that you're involved in is of value and you are bringing value to that. And I think just generally, like my team, we do daily stand-ups, which I know is not possible for every team. But for my team, we're able to do a stand-up and discuss everything that we've worked on in a previous day and what we plan on working on today, making sure nobody has any blockers and to ensure that everybody has a pathway for success. And then just generally, like I know we'll talk about tools a little bit later, but Jira is my best friend, building out roadmaps to achieve success with each of our clients, whatever stage they may be in the life cycle, and also utilizing ticket production and epic production within there to accomplish tasks and also track larger OKRs and KPIs that we're trying to achieve quarterly and yearly.
Hey, Patrick, I know there's a bunch of tools, right? We've thrown out a bunch of tools. We've thrown out time blocking. We've thrown out Jira and Outlook, the Pomodoro technique, which I'd like one of you guys to, and I can also go through it as well, which I think is a great technique to not just for time management, but for just being more efficient. But what's really at the root of it? What's the one thing that's super important? You know what I'm leading to, because we talked about this in the prep call. What is the most important thing when it comes to all of this, regardless of the tools?
Absolutely. I think about it like, my golf game. I could go out and buy a whole new set of golf clubs, new golf balls, new golf shoes. All those tools, they're not going to make me a better golfer. And so I need to kind of, so you can have all these tools, but I think it really starts with emotional management, is looking at not just for yourself, but also if you manage a team, you lead a team, it's understanding like, what is the source of it? What is the source of the procrastination? What is the source of the lack of organization? Does someone feel like they have imposter syndrome? Or are you putting off a task because you have fear of failure? That's really emotional management and really getting to the root and having some self-reflection. And, when you start, I journal quite a bit. And at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, at the beginning of the week, at the end of the week, there's a lot of self-reflection. It's like, well, why is that task being there week after week after week and it's not getting accomplished? Well, that right there, you got to start breaking it down emotionally and saying, well, why is it? Or do I just have, lack of self-discipline, or I'll be so blunt to call it laziness. I need to inject some self-discipline in here and some rigor into my time schedule so that I'm not putting off these tasks. And that's emotional management. And the next part is really looking at time management more as productivity management. It's one of the things we talk about in our management essentials class is really what you're wanting to do is to produce something, whether it's for yourself, for your family, for your customer, because we're trying to create great customer outcomes, great customer experiences. So what are we producing during that time we're scheduling? So emotional management and productivity management. That's how
self-management. Yeah. And it's I think it's another piece of this. And one of the things that I hear over and over again is this lack of owning your own calendar, owning your own schedule. Well, I get sucked into this meeting and Cole, you mentioned it, and Jen, you mentioned it as well. I get sucked in this meeting. You've got to take control of your own calendar. You got to take control of your own schedule. It's your schedule.
Yeah.
Right. And I love, Cole, how you said, hey, I question those meetings. Do I really need to be here?
Don't be afraid to say no.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid to say no. Have you ever, Jen, had to hang out the do not disturb sign?
Yes.
Virtual, yeah, right?
Many times.
Yeah.
I fiercely protect my calendar as much as possible. I think at first, when I was a new CSM, it's like, and you work for a large company, there's a lot of internal meetings and, sometimes that can be overwhelming and compete against, customer needs and priorities, right? So it was, like Cole said, learning to say no, learning to, kind of question, okay, do I need to be in this one? Can I skip, maybe watch the recording so I can tend to this customer's needs? So I fiercely protect my calendar with the time blocking technique. Like, for example, every morning I have a time blocked off first thing in the morning for an hour to go through my inbox, right? And then my second time block on there is escalations. And I kind of employ the technique of probably many of you heard of the book Eat the Frog. And it's basically taking your largest or most, pressing things that you don't want to do, take one or two things and get those done first thing in the morning. And so that's why I put, any escalations or fires, as you will, at the beginning of my day, so I can try my best to work through those and then get through the rest of the day of what I need to do. But, fiercely protecting your calendar and making time to do, whether it's, deep work or customer engagement, or even just going through your to-do list, right? Or checking your inbox. If you're blocking that time and putting it as a meeting on your calendar, at least for me, I'm more apt to, stick to that, right? Because it's on my calendar, it's blocked off. Nobody can just throw something on there unannounced, right? So that's been the technique that's worked the best for me and manage my book of business and just managing, I guess, the day-to-day tasks of being a CSM. So
Eat the Frog. I have not heard of Eat the Frog. Does it taste like chicken?
I've heard it
does. So, okay. All right. Eat the Frog. Awesome. We've already got a bunch of questions, and I know that, that folks are here to learn about techniques and tools. So who has, as a matter of fact, the first question is, do we use any specific tools that you found helpful to track tasks? Thank you, Allie, by the way, for that question. Or do you just use a to-do list? Patrick, looks like you wanted to jump in on that.
Sure. For me, it's a combination of tools, and it's evolved over time, but I can tell you right now, for me, right now, it's about journaling, and I use OneNote. I actually use the pencil. I have my iPad, and I do journal in that, and I create as I'm journaling, and I come up with tasks that I'm doing. I flag those as particular tasks, and I've got that integrated with Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft To Do, and therefore they show up there. And then what I do is look at all of that to-do list, and I make sure I get them all down. And so I have this really long list, and I try to, and it's our ongoing running list. And I look at it and I say, okay, at the beginning of the week, whether you do it Sunday, and I do a lot of times mine on Sundays, Sunday evenings, just a little self-reflection. And I plan out my week as to what I think I can do. And I time box all of those particular tasks into, again, I think I can do this in 2 hours. I've broken it down into manageable chunks. And I go, this is two hours this time, this particular task, it's going to be on Wednesday, and it's on my calendar. And so when I look at my calendar, it's there. There's a lot of tasks that don't make it onto the calendar because I'm going through, Andrew alluded to earlier, the Eisenhower. Some people also know it as Stephen Covey principle. If you read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Can you explain the Eisenhower matrix for everybody?
Sure. There's if you look at 4 boxes, and at the top there's urgent, not urgent, and then important, not important. And it's putting those particular tasks into those 4 quadrants. And that's helping, it's one method to help prioritize what should be in your week. So if it's something that's, urgent and important, okay, you need to be taking a look at this because it's probably critical. But if it's, not urgent and not important, such as like doing social media, okay, well, then or cruising Facebook in the middle of the workday. Well, okay, that's probably, that's probably not the best use of time. So back to the tools. So for my long range planning, I use Trello because I can do road mapping there. And actually Andrew and I've done and worked with Trello back and forth on collaboration activities and getting all those down. And I work with that with a lot of my teams. But then for my wife and I, we use a tool called AnyList, which is great for grocery items, things to do around the house. And we share that. And I get notifications when certain things are coming in from, as I was referring to earlier, the boss. And so I know that when I go to the grocery store, I got my to-do list. It's there. So I've got a combination between Microsoft Outlook, OneNote, Trello, and any list that's for more personal items.
Cole, what about you?
Yeah. Like I said, boxing things off, kind of like how he mentioned with the calendar and stuff. Jira, like I said, is our best friend. And just communicating with my team on how we're accomplishing those. So when a task comes up, we're building out a ticket in Jira, making sure there's sufficient information within that. So not only the person that's working on it understands what's going on, but everybody else from other departments can go and look and understand what's going on, because everything's connected. We're working on one thing, but it's achieving a overarching goal within the company. So it's good for everybody to be aware of what's going on. We've also utilized Jira and Google Slides together. So one of the functionalities that we've learned recently and our team put together is we're able to take our OKRs that are broken down into quarterly goals and then weekly goals and all that stuff. And we're able to transfer the data from those tickets into a Jira slide that we're constantly updating. So anybody from our team can look at this slide deck without having to go through all these darn tickets on Jira and understand where we're achieving. So we just brought on this new client. Where are we in the life cycle? What's next to achieve it? So keeps everybody involved, keeps everything organized, and allows us to know what's next, what's now, what's the end goal, right? So those are kind of the big two that I utilize.
And Jen, so you're as you mentioned, you're using a lot of Outlook plugins. You're using the time boxing. I use time boxing myself. Except what I do is every Monday morning, I have a time box at 8:30, from 8:30 to 9, and I look out across my entire week. And there are some time boxed items that I have, that are repeat every week. But I look at my calendar for the entire week, and I say, okay, based off of what I know is going to go on this week, do I need to make any adjustments? Do I need to add anything? The other thing, though, that I've also found really beneficial is not just thinking about what's happening this week, but at the end of the week, I have a half hour, 45 minutes set aside for reflection. Okay, well, what happened this last week? What did I get done? What did I not get done? And how is that going to influence what my next week looks like? And that's been very, very effective. I also use this, and we mentioned it, this technique called the Pomodoro method. The Pomodoro method, in a nutshell, is you when you begin a task, you set a timer for 25 minutes and you work on that task for 25 minutes. And there's actually Pomodoro apps. There's a bunch. I'm sure there are a bunch on Windows. I have a couple different ones on my Mac. But you set that timer for 25 minutes. You do your work. At the end of 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, and the timer basically goes off and says, "Okay, time for you to take your break." And I get up and I walk around. I walk away from my workspace. I'm sorry, my gardeners, of course, show up at the worst possible time. At the end of the 25-minute, I take that 5-minute break. I walk away, and then I come back and I sit down and I do another 25-minute set of work. And then once I get through 4 of those, I take a 15 to 30-minute break. And it really has increased my productivity. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to increase productivity.
Exactly. And to your point of just having that time on Mondays in the morning and then that reflection time on Fridays, I kind of do the similar thing with the time blocking or time boxing, as you call it. And I do. I look at the beginning of the week. I'm like, okay, what's ahead? Where do I need to, maybe put in extra time? Just making sure I'm checking my inbox throughout the day, because I don't do it like when an email pops in. I'm not constantly switching back and forth all the time, as tempting as that is. Just making sure that there's time blocked for proactive customer engagement, I should say, and not just putting out fires. So I think it's really important to, like you said, look at the week ahead and reflect on your week at the end of the week, and making sure that, you're constantly, making enough, time blocks for yourself, to get things done. But
that's good discipline that you're not jumping into email. That really is. Discipline is part of this.
Yeah.
It's tough because it's like you're in the middle of something and you see the Outlook notification and it's like, man, I really want to read that right now, but I can't.
Well, one thing that sometimes what I working with lots of CSMs and lots of teams, what I've also seen is I've seen people and teams actually create more stress for themselves. And sometimes they do, it happens because they're trying to provide over the top service for their customers. If you have an SLA of 8 business hours, but you respond to your customer within 15 minutes of them sending you an email every time, guess what? Regardless of what your SLA says, they're going to expect that you respond to them within 15 minutes every time.
Exactly.
So it's like the it's like the Pavlov dogs when you ring the bell, they start to salivate. It's the same concept, right? You're conditioning them. And then what you do is you create that problem for yourself, because there's this once again back to what you said, Patrick. Expectation management is key. Yeah. Have any of you experienced that?
Oh, 100%. So with our client base, the market of land-based aquaculture is relatively small compared to others in the customer success world. So our communication with our clients is very, very high touch. And because of that, you get emotionally invested and also invested in the product that we're selling anyways. So exactly what you said too, I want to respond right away. I want to check my emails to make sure that they're not sending me something. I'm checking our communication pathways, if that be, we use Teams and WhatsApp and all these different things to communicate with our clients because they're all over the world. As well as Slack messages that are going on internally and externally, and even the user interface of our product. I want to stare at it all the time to make sure that we're feeding fish, we're taking care of them, everything's working. So it comes back to that discipline where it's like, you don't want to condition them to expect for you to be answering immediately, because as a client base grows, it becomes impossible. But also it's the self-discipline to know that I'm not going to be achieving anything if I'm focusing on staring at the UI or checking my emails every 5 seconds. You need to put the systems in place, block it in your calendar, say I'm going to check my emails in the morning, or, we have quality assurance checks in the day to make sure that the UI is working. So I'm not staring at it for 6 hours, right?
You're not sitting there refresh.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
And if it's really that urgent, what I used to do with my customers is, listen, I check my email twice a day because I've got so much stuff on my plate. If it's urgent, pick up the phone and call me, right? If it's that urgent. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't respond to your customer quickly if it's an urgent issue, right? But you end up you lose a lot of effectiveness when you keep switching gears.
For sure.
Hey, Patrick, Ali, thank you for that question. And I'm sure there'll be more examples of tools and things like that as we continue through here. Patrick, can you hit done on that question for me?
Yeah, I sure can.
Thank you. So Chelsea, thank you for the question. Chelsea asks, thoughts on completing normal workload when fires pop up that require all of your attention? And Cole, looks like you wanted to jump in on this. What have you got for Chelsea on this one?
Yeah, so in my line of work, fires come up, and it's not necessarily something that's not working, but the product that we're producing, which is artificial intelligence, is revolutionizing how fish farmers are feeding their fish and now growing their fish. So it's a complete change of how they've done their jobs before, and that can strike a little bit of fear and unknown in customers. So they're always asking questions, always wanting to know, and you don't plan this out in your week. You don't plan on your client from Norway or some other foreign country to message you at 1 a.m. wanting to know why this thing is happening or whatever. So fires are going to happen. They are going to shift your work. But when they do come, and if you do need to be involved with it, one of the biggest things I've learned is you can't always be the hero. sometimes the best thing to do is bring in other people within your company, pair with people, because in the end, if something's going to take you 3 hours to do by yourself and you can get the support from somebody else in your team to burn it out in 5 minutes, it'll make your life that much easier. So pairing with knowledgeable people in your company to support these clients, also taking advantage of past experiences, building out standard operating procedures and documenting experiences. So if something does happen, if a fire happens, that you can quickly deal with it, because I say, oh, this happened 2 months ago with this client. We know how to deal with it. We can quickly resolve it instead of, sending it to the tech team to do a 2-day investigation and then, not being able to provide for that client potentially because we're trying to figure something out. So I would say pairing, documenting, and learning from experiences. So the next time it does happen, if it does happen, we can quickly burn it out and it can allow you to prioritize back on your work. You may have a little bit less time to work on it. And what we touched on before, sometimes you just don't get stuff done in the week and you move it over to your next sprint. But at least with some of these tools, you may be able to quickly get rid of some of these fires and get back to your regular work.
Also, time blocks and padding into your week as well, right? Jen, what do you got to add? Anything, Jen, Patrick, anything to add to that?
I would say sometimes with, if the customer fires involve, other departments and whatnot, sometimes you can get caught in the perpetual email string chain of, instead of like, hey, let's get everybody on a quick call. Let's talk about this for like 15 minutes so we can resolve it, So if at all possible, I like to do that. But again, just I think of my fires as, escalations, right? So I always have at least an hour every morning to blocked off right away to deal with that. And now, does that always work in a perfect world? No, but at least I know that time is there to dedicate to that. But I also think it's important, like Cole said, to lean on your peers or your even like your manager or other department heads or teams to help so that it doesn't derail your day completely if at all possible. So that's kind of been my strategies for that.
Patrick, you got anything else?
Very much the same. It's really, prioritizing, categorizing the incoming tasks, also looking at, those that are in particular roles that are set up to be responsive. So whether it's a customer support desk versus someone that needs to be in a role that's a little bit more proactive or kind of looking towards the future, it's like, well, is that really the best? Am I the best person to handle this or that person to handle this? Do we need to delegate that to someone who's much in that type of role that can respond to that? Because often I go into organizations where I see a lot of tasks being handled by someone that needs to be much more focusing on the project. And it's like, well, that's not really their role. We need to put that in the hands of the right people. And back to what Cole was saying, look, you're trying to be a hero. Let's kind of drop, again, not being that blunt, but hey, let's kind of drop the ego. Let's hand this off to someone else that really is in the role to handle this particular activity.
I think that dovetails nicely into the next question from Arup. Chelsea, thank you for that question. Cole, if you could hit done for me. Arup asks, how can I effectively prioritize strategic work over support tasks for my clients? I'd like to find ways to delegate support responsibilities to the appropriate team while ensuring I can dedicate more time and focus on driving long-term customer success and strategic initiatives. And that's, you got to delegate, right? You got to figure out what can and should be delegated and what classifies as delegatable. That's a word. Mm-hmm. I would also look for ways to automate stuff, right? And whenever we had support issues, especially ones that we had a wiki for, we had a video for, what have you, I would always be all about deflect, right? Deflect these customers to our wiki site, right? And say, hey, you know what? We can solve. We have a video on that. We have a wiki on that. You can find it here, right? Go over there. But it's. I mean, you've got to be disciplined enough to delegate as well, What I find is people in these roles are we've all got high EQ. We want to help, right? But the problem is you can't have that desire to help prevent you from being effective with the rest of your customer base.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's important to, empower your customers to utilize the tools that are available to them that the company provides, whether it's support articles or, like for our company, for example, we have what's called Zywave University, which is their training platforms, right? So if any of their team needs refreshers on certain tools or things like that, making sure and reminding our agencies that that's available to them. And then a lot of times it's like, oh, I didn't realize that was there, because people are people and they forget, right?
Yeah.
So just, constantly putting that in the forefront, and that sometimes would avoid, some of those smaller, tasks or things that may not necessarily need to go to support, but that they can kind of, use the self-help tools that are available through your company's site. And that way, those little things can get knocked out pretty quickly so that you can focus on, like you said, some of that strategic work that needs to get done. But it goes back to, I'm going to preach this until I'm blue in the face, but protecting your calendar is like the key to this whole topic, because if you're not in control of your calendar and you don't fiercely protect your time, it's other people will take it, or other things will derail it all day long. So
it's your calendar. Don't let it get commandeered. Yeah. It's your calendar. You control your calendar. Yeah. You need to be the one. You are empowered. You need to be the one that controls your calendar. You need to question everything that comes across your desk. Hey, should I be spending this time? In our level 2 course, in the second, when I do the 12-week coaching cohorts, in the second week, we have this whole thing about prioritizing your time and doing an analysis of how much you're spending, how much people are spending, or what they're spending their time on, and how much time they're spending, so that they can find time to be proactive. And one of the things consistently, every time I run this course, every time people are amazed at how much time they spend in meetings. I'm like, well, why are you spending all that time in meetings? Do you really need to be? And we get into this great back and forth conversation about, do you really need to be in that meeting?
Well, and to that point, our company actually, our leadership did a really great job this past year. And actually, I think it was before the holidays, I might have deployed this, but I think they recognize that sometimes we do have too many internal meetings. And so they time blocked for us on Wednesday afternoon, basically just saying no internal meetings. So this is basically productivity time, right? Or customer engagement time. So I think that's helped across the company. And I'm not sure if your companies do that or have done that company wide, but we've gotten great feedback, from various teams that's been something that everybody likes. That's been very helpful. So even the company leadership is getting on board with that. It's like you said, it's your calendar, and it's very important that, we're customer focused, and that making sure that, the meetings that we do have internally are meaningful and are of purpose and productive.
Love that.
Just to build off of that, and one of the things that often see, and actually we address this in the Manager Essentials course, is collaboration overload. Now, I'll start off with saying collaboration is awesome. It's one of the things that draws a lot of people to customer-facing roles, because it's really great, because we get to work throughout the entire organization. We get to work with product and implementation and customer support, all parts of the organization, and not just within our organizations, but also with customer organizations, because a lot of times you've got to work with multiple departments. And so we do a lot of collaboration in client-facing roles and customer success. But that leads to a lot of people being overwhelmed and a lot of tasks that are on, and like you said, meetings. I'm like in meeting overload. And so one of the things you need to understand is why are you accepting this collaboration work? Be back to that emotional management I was talking about. Like, why? Is this just feeding your ego? Are you trying to be a hero? Or is it something where you're going to add value and you're going to produce great outcomes and experiences for your customers? also, when you say yes to something that's collaboration, you're saying no to participating less in something else. So to say yes to something means saying no to something else. And then decide, a lot of times I've seen people working on collaboration teams or sometimes initiatives, and their value has ended, meaning they added value early on in the initiative, but they remain because they feel like they need to remain engaged. And it's like know when to bow out and to say, look, I am right now, it looks like you're going on this. You got it. I'm going to step out. They stay in too long. And then of course, Stephen Covey's circle of influence. Do you have direct control or direct influence on that particular collaboration activity? Or is it just something you need to be concerned about? If it's something you're just concerned, hey, just get updates. You don't have to participate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just to add quickly 2 points on that. One of the things that we've implemented is, a little contradictory saying it out loud, but we book another meeting internally in our department to discuss our recurring meetings. Because we're so high touch with our clients, we have a lot of recurring meetings with our clients. And a lot of the time, or not a lot of the time, sometimes, there's just nothing to talk about. So what we've done is at the end of every week, we have an internal meeting with the customer success team and say, okay, these are all the clients you guys are all managing. Come to this meeting saying yes or no. Are we having this meeting this week? Yes or no, and why? We go through it and make our decisions for the week on if we're having those meetings. If we're not, we're canceling them. We let the client know why, and that's that. To get back a little bit to this question by Arup and something Andrew said about asking questions, I think one of the big things about understanding if it's a support thing or more of a strategic thing that you're working on and how to delegate or not is ask questions. A lot of the time, the clients that you have, especially if they're new clients, a lot of the things they may be asking for, they're not 100% of what they're asking for. So it's important to ask questions and understand exactly what they're asking for. Because sometimes when you dig deep into what that question is or that desire is, it might not be what they're actually asking for. And then, it might be one that the client, I don't actually need this. Also, it gives you an understanding of it if it's something that's not only important for them, but the market as a whole. Something awesome that we can release to the entire market, or maybe it's just a customization they want. But by asking questions to understand what that true request is, you have a better understanding of if you can delegate it and where to delegate it.
Just a reminder, we're going to keep going. We got another 15 minutes. So if you can stick around, stick around. If you can't, watch the replay. Awesome. Thank you. Arup, thanks for the question. Next question comes from Heather, and it's been upvoted quite a bit. What's the ideal amount of time we should allocate each week to focus on personal development? Now, of course, in my role and what we do, we get this question asked a lot. And, we typically respond with 60 to 90 minutes. Now, that's based on, what it typically takes to get through the vast majority of our content, getting through an online learning and then doing whatever exercise or homework that we have to help solidify your understanding of that. What I think is more important, though, than the time frame, you got to figure out what time frame works best for you, is creating a rule for yourself, because personal development is so important. Creating a rule for yourself that if that time slot needs to be taken up by something else, like escalation, like what Jen's experienced, or something, some event, company event, meeting, thing like whatever it is, because things happen. The rule you should set for yourself is, I will not delete that. I will move it. I will move it somewhere else on my calendar, right? Personal development is so important. So don't just delete that personal development time. Find another slot to do it in. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, I think personal development is obviously an important thing and you should be doing it all the time. But I think it's, what's personal development for you? Is it, reading a book that will increase your knowledge in the topic you're in? Is it talking to a superior? Is it coming to
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You froze there. You froze.
Oh no.
Is it coming to what? Is it coming to a webinar and seeing Cole freeze up?
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah, coming to a masterminds webinar is what I said. Most awful time to freeze up.
Yeah,
I think it all depends on what personal development is for you. I totally agree with Andrew. It's important. Don't get rid of it. Do it constantly. But there's so many avenues to have personal development or professional development. It's really hard to pinpoint a time. I always try to do a few of these webinars at least once a week, once every few weeks when I can. If that's reading a book that's been recommended to me, or just talking to superiors about, adjacent stuff they've experienced or stuff they've experienced specific, right? So I guess I probably didn't answer your question. But,
no, that was good. No, I think you reiterated the fact that it's important for that to stay on your calendar.
For sure.
Yeah. All right.
On your
awesome.
calendar.
Heather, thank you. We've got a question from LinkedIn. Iran Yang. Apologies if I butchered your name. How do you manage requests coming from your superior, even when you have plans and blocked out your calendar for the day or for the week?
I'll take that one.
Sure.
I think our leadership does a great job of, trying to give us reasonable turnaround times as well. Because I know, our workload is a lot, especially in the insurance world and just the 30 different SaaS products that we have at the company and the various agencies that we work with. But, if something comes in that's pressing that needs to either get done by the end of the day or the next day, usually they try and give us a 24-hour turnaround time if something is urgent or they need, status updates on certain accounts and whatnot. But, again, it's, looking at your calendar, seeing, okay, well, yes, I've got this time blocked off, but what can be moved, right? If it's something like, for example, usually at the end of the day, I'll have time blocked off to just make sure that my gain site's updated or, all of my notes are in the system, and just doing that last check of my inbox. Well, that's kind of like admin time, right? So if something's pressing that comes from my superior, for example, and they, send a spreadsheet over that says, hey, can you give me updates on this, this, and this, or, whatever the case is, I know that, I could adjust my admin time, right? And I could, use that, for example, to get that done. Because I know that the next morning when I come in, I've already got time blocked off for some of those, inbox and admin tasks anyway. So some of that can be, pushed to the morning, right? So that's kind of how I handle it when I get requests from my superiors.
I think that's a great strategy, having some padding, right? Having some.
Yeah, and it depends on what it is, right? Yeah, so.
Yeah, well, something that I used to do all the time was if I didn't have the benefit of padding, is I would go back to my boss and say, okay, I can do this, but by the way, this is what's not getting done, or I'm going to have to push these things, especially if they were customer related. Okay, I can do that for you, but that means that I can't prepare for this QBR that we're having tomorrow. Right. So what you help and what you're doing is you're not being threatening in any way. What you're doing is you're saying, so you follow that up with, help me understand what the priority is, right? Because if this thing that you want me to do is the priority, I will do it, right? But if it's, what do you think is, help me determine what the priority is.
Absolutely.
And I used to tell my team that all the time. I'm like, if I ask you to do something and you're dealing with something, I want you to push back and say, hey, okay, help me understand, help me prioritize.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Iran Yang. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but thank you for the question. This next question comes from Keely, and Keely has been waiting so patiently. So Keely, we're going to finally get to your question here, and good, you're still online. Keely's asking Jen specifically, she would love to hear more about how you're using Gainsight to handle those action items that you need to return to later. She is new to Gainsight. She doesn't feel that she's using it efficiently as she could. So any information you can share about your workflow would be greatly appreciated. And if you can just do kind of a quick high-level overview and then maybe connect with Keely over LinkedIn and give her some more direct advice, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I really utilize the CTAs or call to actions, especially with my clients. If I've got a quarterly cadence going on with them or a monthly cadence, And I will keep that open for that particular month or quarter and log my notes and activities in that call to action. I also heavily use the tasks and, within the account so that I can either pull up my, in Gainsight, it's the cockpit, and it shows your call to actions. And then there's a drop down where you can see all of your tasks or to-dos. And the cool thing in Gainsight with using your tasks is you can label it, high priority, low priority. And so that's kind of how I use it. Definitely use the labels and all of the bells and whistles in there. But those are the two areas I use the most, the CTAs and the tasks. So, but happy to connect with you on LinkedIn and share more.
Awesome. I would recommend anybody who wants to connect with anybody here, please do. Please feel free to reach out to any of us and connect with us for sure. Awesome. Our next, and we've got a few more minutes, so we should be able to get through some more of these. Our next question comes from Crystal. Crystal, thank you for the question. An issue that CSMs that I work with involve the sales rep or account executives selling their value as they will be there for that personalized touch. This can sometimes happen to the point that it is so time consuming. They would rather have us be a concierge rather than a customer success. They don't want to go to our help page or our tech team. Sounds like you need to, or your leadership needs to have a sit down with sales and set expectations on this is what customer success does and this is what they don't do. And and that expectation should be reiterated. That expectation should be set in the sales process, and it should be very clear. And what you do and what you don't do. And it could just be that your sales team doesn't really understand that. Has anybody ever sat down with your sales team? I used to do this on a quarterly basis with our sales team and explained what customer success does, what their responsibilities are, what they don't do. And so what I've found is much more times than not, it's just a disconnect between what they think you do and what you actually do, and nobody has taken the effort to go and explain that to them. That's been my experience. Cole, Jen, Patrick, you got something else?
I just think generally the pathway to success is making sure that everybody's on the same page. Their jobs are to sell a product. So sometimes if you're not on the same page, these situations are going to happen where it's like, anytime you need anything, they'll be there for you. But at that point, you're setting a standard that may not be able to get met. So having those conversations either at a higher level, executive level, where they're having these discussions, or if you're just pairing with them, depending on the size of your company, and having those discussions, like Andrew said, making sure they understand what you do and what you're capable of doing, right, within reason. So, because we don't want to set a standard for our clients that can't be met, right? We want them to understand what we can do for them. And don't want to set those expectations too high to a point where they're disappointed in the quality of customer success they're getting.
Never assume they know, and never assume that somebody's going to tell them. Make sure that somebody in your management team understands that those are the expectations being set, and that somebody needs to go have a conversation with them. Right? Exactly. It's our job to kind of make that first move. They're not going to do it. Let's see. We got another question from LinkedIn. Oh, wow. A question about AI. Like, that's not a hot topic these days. Talana, thank you for the question. What are your thoughts on how AI and automation can improve time management in this environment? I actually personally think, and I've written about this, I posted this on LinkedIn, and we even talked about it during our AI webinar that I did last week with Mickey. We've got one coming up next week, by the way. I think it's on the 20. Ashley, when is it? On the 27th? Yeah, on the 27th, which will be hosted by Angelica, because I'm going to be out of town again. But I think AI is going to be a huge benefit to people in customer success, and automation's a huge benefit. We should be embracing this. This is going to not only make it easier for you to do your job, it's going to turn you from a knowledge worker into a knowledgeable worker. And I am borrowing that from an article I read last week, but I loved that phrase. AI is definitely not something to be afraid of. AI is something that we should be embracing and using to free us up and automate some of those kind of repetitive, mundane tasks so that we can apply our cycles to helping our customers extract even more value out of what it is we have to offer for them. Patrick, Cole, Jen, what do you got to add to that?
Yeah, I think especially in land-based fish aquaculture, it's fantastic, but that's probably not what the question was about. But when it comes to AI, just for time management, I think it's a fantastic supportive tool. I know we've utilized it.
Oh, I think you locked up again.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you locked up again.
Everybody hear me? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you're back.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I know we've utilized it in some capacity so far, either through, we have a long Slack thread where we're talking about a client and we're able to use AI to summarize that, 80 to 100 messages. So somebody's not wasting 5 to 10 minutes going through it, making sure to review stuff we're sending that might go externally or internally, all these different things. So I think it's a fantastic supportive tool right now. And excited to see where it goes in the future.
Absolutely. For me, I've from some of the personal AI tools that are out there, there's several companies that are doing that. I've been working with them, playing with their tools, seeing how I can kind of integrate it into my workflow, and it's pretty amazing on how they can predict and schedule, especially taking things from a very long to-do list. I haven't incorporated them into my personal kind of management because, like I said earlier, I'm doing a lot of journaling and not a lot of them are focused in that area right now. They're much more on tasks. But some of the project management tools that are coming out, I'm very excited about the future and what holds into the big enterprise management tools.
Awesome. Jen, anything else to add before we wrap things up?
In terms of automation, I know that there's still some things being deployed at our company through Gainsight, some of those automated task features. So I'm excited about that. We're supposed to be having that launched over the next couple of months. So I know that that'll be a tremendous help, for our workflows or just identifying like accounts at risk or things of that nature based on utilization. So definitely think there's a place for automation for sure.
Awesome. All right. We're at the end of our time that we've got for today. I think it was a great conversation, but it's not what I think. It's what all you think. So please let us know by posting your feedback on LinkedIn and tagging either myself, our guests, or Success Coaching. I want to thank my amazing panelists for spending the time with us today, for the ideas, for the thoughts, the insights, and the best practices that you shared, actually for setting aside the time in your calendar to spend time with us today. One final note, great CSMs know they don't have all the answers, but they know where to get them. So that's why we created the CSM Mastermind, to harness the knowledge and experience of the community to help improve everyone. Once again, we hope to see you at our next event on August 16th, when we'll talk about strategies for getting promoted. Until then, make sure to make space for yourself and your mindset every single day, and have a great rest of your day, week, and month, everyone, until we see you again. Thank you.